An Israeli newspaper is now reporting that multiple officials in Israel are holding secret meetings with other countries around the world to discuss displacing Palestinians from Gaza, also known as ethnic cleansing. Now, let me just say, this is something that we have been warning about for weeks now. And all of the Israel defenders kept denying that this was the reality, because they wanted to pretend as though, no, you don't understand. Israel is the only democracy in the region. Israel is above all that. They would never carry out ethnic cleansing. Well, they're carrying out ethnic cleansing, and it is now abundantly clear. We have the evidence. Now, last Monday, Netanyahu said at a Likud meeting that he is in fact working to facilitate the voluntary resettlement of Gazans to other countries. Voluntary is a weird way of putting it when your plan is to make the Gaza Strip unlivable by leveling the Gaza Strip. So people feel that they have no choice but to leave the Gaza Strip because, again, it is unlivable in Gaza. No residential buildings, no functioning hospitals. This was the plan all along. Hence the indiscriminate bombing that we have been seeing in footage, in reports, in unbiased media that we've been sharing with you here at TYT. Now, Netanyahu said, our problem is finding countries that are willing to absorb Gazans, and we are working on it. The prime minister was responding to Likud MK Danny Danon, who claimed that the world is already discussing the possibilities of voluntary immigration, though the idea has been roundly rejected by the international community. And that's probably because the international community does not want to aid and abet the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. A senior official also says that Israel is now holding talks with several countries. Netanyahu's coalition is allegedly pushing for the Democratic Republic of Congo to accept thousands of immigrants from Gaza. In 2021, Congo's level of human development was ranked 179th out of 191 countries by the Human Development Index and is classified as the least developed country in the UN, or by the UN, I should say. It is currently experiencing political instability, lots of clashes between opposing political groups in Congo. Not exactly the type of place people would want to immigrate to, which makes it no surprise to me that Netanyahu and the goons in his far-right government want to push Palestinians out of their land and into a country like the Democratic Republic of Congo. A senior source in Israel's security cabinet said, quote, Congo will be willing to take in migrants and we're in talks with others. The idea was also raised in regard to Saudi Arabia taking in Palestinians, thousands of Palestinians, to do construction work. We'll go through more specific calls for displacing Palestinians as well. But first, here's Middle East analyst Muin Rabbani explaining how calls for ethnic cleansing saw a resurgence right after the October 7th attacks and the ongoing effort to carry it out. Let's watch.
The proposal that was put front and center, literally on October 7th and onwards, was to move the population of the Gaza Strip to the Sinai Desert, to Egypt. And this was an idea that was very enthusiastically embraced by the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. He was met with categorical refusal and rejection for this proposal, first and foremost by Egypt. And the US and European governments later came out with a position that they would oppose forced displacement from the Gaza Strip, leaving open the possibility of what we're seeing now, an Israeli military campaign, a primary objective of which is to make the Gaza Strip unfit for human habitation, and then the encouragement of voluntary, or what is now even being called humanitarian emigration in order to achieve the ethnic cleansing.
I mean, this is what we heard from David Frum on yesterday's show. I played a snippet of an interview that he had on Al Jazeera, where he tried to put a pretty face on the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. By the way, if you're unfamiliar with David Frum, he's the person who would write George W. Bush's speeches as Bush was conducting his own war crimes in the Middle East. He's the one who dubbed the so-called axis of evil, fear-mongered about various countries that the United States should invade and engage in preemptive wars of. David Frum is someone who is so fully discredited, it is shocking to me that anyone has any interest in listening to anything he has to say. But he did in fact try to paint this pretty picture of the displacement and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, arguing that they should be allowed into other countries in order to work and send money back to the Gaza Strip. And he said this knowing full well that Benjamin Netanyahu wants to take control of Egypt's border with the Gaza Strip in order to basically have full control of that land. You think Netanyahu's gonna allow Palestinians back into the Gaza Strip? Come on, come on. David Frum knows what he's doing, and so do various figures within Israel's far-right government, including a known terrorist, by the way, Bezalel Smotrich. He is a known terrorist. I'll explain why in just a moment. He's unfortunately currently the national security minister. I'm sorry, he's the finance minister. And then you also have the national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who are both ardent supporters of these types of plans to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from the Strip. Smotrich, who was arrested in 2005, get a load of this, while protesting Israel's evacuation of its Gaza Strip settlements, said Jerusalem could not allow Gaza to remain as a hothouse of 2 million people who want to destroy the state of Israel. We want to encourage willful immigration, and we need to find countries willing to take them in, he said. You notice how he made a blanket statement about the 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip? They're all terrorists. In their eyes, they're all terrorists. But let's be clear, the real terrorist here is Bezalel Smotrich, okay? He's a terrorist. In fact, he was arrested for terroristic activity prior to what he's serving as right now. It is disgusting that he's a government official, but what more could you expect from Israel's far-right government? And what am I talking about? It had previously been reported that Smotrich was held by the Shin Bet security service for 3 weeks on suspicion that he was planning to block major traffic arteries and damage infrastructure to protest the withdrawal, and was part of a cell of 5 people who were caught allegedly planning an attack with 700 liters of gasoline. They were planning to bomb a major road, an artery that runs through the area. That's who we're talking about. And he has the audacity to call all Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip, half of whom are children, terrorists. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to the ethnic cleansing plans by the very political leaders in Israel who think they're not the terrorists. Now, to be fair, Smotrich was released without any charges, but honestly, at this point, I have zero faith in Israel's judicial system, or justice system, I should say. Now, back to the present day, where Smotrich also said during an appearance on Israel's Channel 12, we will be in security control and we will need there to be civil control. Okay, I'm for completely changing the reality in Gaza, having a conversation about settlements in the Gaza Strip. He wants the land, guys. We'll need to rule there for a long time. If we want to be there militarily, we need to be there in a civilian fashion. This was his plan all along, right? This war is, in his mind, a perfect opportunity to do something that he's been wanting to do since the early aughts. Get the Palestinians out of that land, because in his mind, that land belongs to the precious settlers who, by the way, carry out all sorts of terror against Palestinians, Armenian Christians in the West Bank. Those settlers. He's looking out for those guys. Anyway, let me continue. In a later interview with Israel's Army Radio, Smotrich doubled down. We need to encourage immigration from there. If there were 100,000 to 200,000 Arabs in the Strip and not 2 million, the whole conversation about the day after the war would be completely different. They want to leave. They have been living in a ghetto for 75 years and are in need.